Hello and welcome to another edition of the Deal Flow Show. I'm JP Maroney, your host, along with my co-host this episode and many others, Paul Nicolini from Harbor City Capital. And we've got actually here in the studio, which we're real excited about, some guests here from locally, which is Howie Dorough and John Dorough from Dorough Brothers Construction. We're going to get into all sorts of things, talk about y'all's childhood, because I'm sure there's a couple of stories there. We're going to talk a little bit about the paths y'all have taken professionally, how the two of you have come back together and the work that you're doing, as well as the charitable work, the foundation. I'd like to talk a little bit about that as well. If you're watching this edition or listening, you can get access to additional episodes of the Deal Flow Show at thedealflowshow.com, and you can also follow or subscribe for future episodes. So it was funny, you said before we started the show, we had to get around a table in an interview to get to know our neighbor. So we've been neighbors for a couple of years now and see each other talk off the docks and things like that. But before moving into the neighborhood, I saw an interview talking about y'all's work in the real estate space. And it was very interesting to me. I started out, I've been building companies this year for 30 years in the entrepreneurial space. But it wasn't until 2013 that I entered the capital markets and we started Harbor City Capital and started doing what we're doing from an investment side of things. So anyone that's involved in whether it's real estate, traditional assets or alternative assets, it's obviously very interesting. So I can't wait to dive into that. But what I'd like to do is take individually, maybe talk a little bit about the business path and go back in your career that you've had in the entertainment industry and talk a little bit about the path that brought you to where you all are today. So Howard?
Perfect. This is my brother, John. There's actually, believe it or not, almost 10 years age difference between the two of us. We come from a family of 5 kids. Johnny is here. I had 3 sisters above that. And then I'm a little Catholic surprise about 10 years later. But my brother, Johnny, we didn't come, like I say, as the traditional bosom buddies because of the age difference.
Sure.
But he's, that age difference over time, the gap did get much smaller, and we've become very, very close. He's actually now like I consider my best friend. Besides my wife, of course, I have to put her name in there as well. If not, I'll get in trouble. But he's just kind of guided me along with just the age that he's, having that many more years on me, and just kind of, just kind of mentored me to a point of, finding my path and not only being as a musician, but also understanding it's show business. And business is something that my brother has always been very hand in hand with me and helping me to craft my business, to make sure I don't put all my eggs in one basket. And that's where I started off very blessed with the BackStreet Boys career, but he's been able to show me a second path that's created another whole different avenue of a career for me with doing the real estate and developing. And so I'm very blessed. We've started 23 years ago with our company, and we've built now, 8 condos?
8 actually buildings. But then some of those buildings we've had some of those projects we've had multiple buildings in there. So we've had a good 8 projects that we've done behind us, besides all the single family and all that kind of stuff.
In a hotel. Yeah. So we've been very blessed that I've, to a point, have been able to create a totally separate career outside of BackStreet Boys. And very blessed and feel we've accomplished a lot for our knowledge that we've been able to bring to the table and learn over the years.
That's great.
So also what I wanted to say was in when we started this company in '97, we got into the whole real estate thing because, as I was young, say 12 years old, my father would actually get into buying single family homes, refurbishing them, and turn around and sell them or rent them out, things like this. So around 12 years old, I was out there cutting the grass, painting, doing some hard labor there. But it actually instilled me on how to really, in what is to do with all of real estate and stuff. There's so much to do with it, and kind of opened my eyes to it, to where when my brother actually became a BackStreet Boy, and I was already doing some single family here, and I'm working my full-time job. And then he came in, he's like, hey bro, I got some money. And I was like, all right, well, let's do it. Let's do it together, and let's go big with it. And so that was our first building when we bought the land in 1997, which was right there in Cape Canaveral. and it was our first building called Flores Ocean Suites, and that building went on right on to where we're at now.
The name Flores is actually important and special, right?
Yes, it is.
It is actually. Our mother's maiden name is Flores. She's a sweet little lady from Puerto Rico, and actually, like I say, my mother was Spanish Puerto Rican descent, and my dad is Irish, Scottish, Scandinavian descent. And so
A lot of fights in your family?
we have a lot of passion.
Lots of passion.
Passion,
Yeah.
there you go. Better
We
word,
know how
yes.
to drink and we know how to get passionate.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you got a dark enough skin that you don't see how red in the face you're getting.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm raised by granddad Irish, and what are you gonna poof? It's just,
It's a drinking side for us.
Tell us a little about that first project. That must have been something the first project in Cape Canaveral. Is that what?
Absolutely. So we found this. I actually found this property and everything with another friend of mine at the time that was working with me at the airlines. I was working for American Airlines, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm looking at purchasing this property." And I said, and he showed it to me and stuff. He and ended up he couldn't go through with it. He just couldn't do it. He goes, "Hey, and I said, well, let me see what I can do with it." So it actually came in there, and then so we actually the biggest part about doing projects is surrounding yourself with capable people and to where you feel very comfortable with these people that you're working with, and so that was the first learning stage in all of this stuff, is meeting the architects, meeting the engineers, meeting the realtors, interior designers, all these kind of things, and meeting the ones that actually understand you and you understand them and stuff, and feeling comfortable with each other. So once we got our architect, which was Dave Jackson, was the guy that actually was working with me. This is called Jackson Kirshner. It's Andrew Kirshner and Dave Jackson, and unbelievable architectural group. They to me, they are the best. They're actually done every one of our projects except for the hotels and the single family and stuff, because they doing all of our condominiums that we've done up and down the coast. And that was a real personal one, even coming up with the name, which was Flores, which was named after my mother, and that Flores means flowers. And then so we were like what else, how can we how do we want to name this building? And then they used to call my brother in the group and everything Sweet D, because he was the nicest one in the group. So so we're like, okay, let's try to somehow implement that. And so that's where we got this Flores Ocean Suites, it's called. And so it just, that actually, as soon as we got that, and we started doing our pre-sales, because how we do it, we have to do our pre-sales, and usually it's about 60 to 70% pre-sold before we can actually get the loan from the bank to break ground. And it happened like that quick. And we knew at that point, we got to, keep doing what we're doing in this way.
Yeah, we have something here.
Yep, so I would say 80% to 90% of our buildings that we've done we've implemented my mother's maiden name, Flores, in it. We have Flores Ocean Suites, Flores Del Mar, Flores Del Rio is a project we're looking at doing, Flores de la Playa, Flores de la Costa, and then we've had a couple other ones that we've done when it comes to buying into other projects, or another partner being involved there, and it already has a name to it, like the Mediterranean and New Smyrna, and in the one that we're actually working on now, which is our favorite, is called the Surf at Cocoa Beach. So
it's interesting that you applied the brand. I don't think in all the episodes that we've done, anyone's really focused on talking about the importance of building the brand side of it, because we work with a lot of deal makers and they have a variety of different deals. So on the brand concept, is there a culture or an underlying theme beyond the name that y'all have brought to these in terms of the kind of people and the company that you're creating underneath that banner?
Well, I think Flores, if you look at all of our condos that do have the Flores name, they have that kind of like a tropical feel So I think with creating the brand of that, the name for those condos, we've been able to establish that, and actually to a point where when we started it back 23 years ago, especially over in Cape Canaveral, we were actually bringing designs that people were just like opening eyes. And little by little, people were starting to copy a lot of our buildings. So I feel like one of the things that we've been very blessed is that I feel like we've constantly been almost like setting the new trend for what's coming. Even with this new building that we're doing, the Surf.
Absolutely.
I think we're bringing something that's going to open eyes, shake up downtown Cocoa Beach. We decided to go with a slice of Miami, bringing it up here, Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. Because we feel like, and it's one of those kind of things I try to keep, Cocoa, not, I obviously for business, I try to publicize as much as possible, but at the same time, on a personal level, I love that we have a little gym here,
Right,
and
right.
it's nice and peaceful. But it's as I think we all know, it's a lot of the space down in South Florida has been bought up, and so little by little, people are starting to come more up this area. And who knows, in 10 years from now, it may be a different area than what we're experiencing right now.
Right.
But so we decided to create like something that's a breath of fresh air. That's gonna be like, hopefully like a landmark in Cocoa Beach. But yeah, I think I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I think the Flores is a Spanish name, and so most of our stuff, like he was saying, it's kind of a Spanish flair to it. But with that said, we also have to kind of grow with time and everything, and so the Spanish evolve, but the Spanish part of it is not as significant now as it used to be to us. Like one of the most recent buildings we did is called Flores de la Costa, and it's got a West Indies looks to it. And we notice that that's coming in and everything by seeing other developments and stuff like this going around. And so we decided to go that route with this past building. But then, I've always loved the modern Miami look and everything. It's much more expensive to build, for one thing.
Right.
But so I don't think it was time for Cocoa to grasp that whole thing yet. But now we believe it is, and it's actually proven that it is. It's how great our sales have been and stuff.
Are you guys? Is all your developments and projects in Florida?
Pretty much everything has been here in Central Florida. We did do one project in Georgia as well, but I'd say 95% of our stuff has mostly been here. We just, we were born, and this is probably one of the reasons why, especially Central Florida, even more so like over here on the coast. We came from Orlando, Florida, just to give you a little bit of background on us. We were born and raised there, and Cocoa Beach to us was always the closest beach. To Orlando, and so little by little, we have such great memories of coming over here as a little, both of us as kids with our parents. Sure. And so when we found the opportunity to come over here, we just took it. I mean, I think we've always believed that location is key, and being on the beach is really desirable for a lot of people. We're even seeing a lot of even of our sales recently with the Surf, the pre-sales, or people that are right now in this COVID situation that are from up north saying, if this, we don't know how long this is going to happen. If this happens again, if I can work from any place remotely, well, I think I'd rather be on the beach looking at, out in the water. So
It's a beautiful view.
a lot of our stuff is water based because I feel like a lot of it is, especially here in Florida, it's either the water people are looking for or the golf courses. And we just found our little niche with being on the water.
Yeah, we love the water. Howie lives in the river. My mother lives on the river. I live on the lake in Winter Park, and in our buildings, most of our buildings is oceanfront. So it's just one of those things that we're just water people.
Sure.
Right. I had a real estate developer, very successful real estate developer I talked to a number of years ago. In fact, we shared the stage speaking at a bunch of investor conferences, and that was one of his criterias that he would look for property. It had to be near water. I mean, he said the values always hold or grow faster. I mean, it was a very important feature. I want to come back and talk a little bit about the background. You mentioned your father and working and the hard work and not just the work ethic, but understanding the dynamics. I want to talk a little bit about your background and what brought you to this point. If you're watching or listening to this episode of the Deal Flow Show, you can get additional episodes, subscribe for the future episodes at thedealflowshow.com. So let's go look back a little bit. You joined the band or were part of the formation of the band early on. Was there anything prior to that seems to have set the stage for what you do now? Or were there any things that you learned early in the career with the band that have given you maybe some the arsenal of skill sets that you need to be involved in the deal flow process now?
Well, I think, for me as a little kid, math was always my favorite subject. I just always loved numbers, and coincidentally, it's my brother. He's so great with numbers as well. And I think, like we were talking about, I think being around our father, who's probably one of the, now thinking back on it, is probably the biggest mentor, if not my brother, for me. But just seeing how he was just the American dream. He was a police officer, but he also had 2 other side jobs, working security at the local bank in Orlando and just doing whatever he could just to provide for a family of 5 kids. And he always would, he worked it. He was a hustler. The little bit of money that he would get, like Johnny would say, he would, tie it into another real estate house on the block. At one point we had, believe it or not, like half of our block on one side of the neighborhood. That was just, I couldn't believe my dad just worked so hard, and he just had that mind, the go-getterness to try to keep on building. And so I think that's where we've developed the passion, was from him starting that and just wanting to, do the real estate stuff. But even as well, that I think that just made me, instill in me the little bit of the businessman that I've become, actually to a point where the guys, believe it or not, in the group, when we decided to elect officers of our company, they all voted me the president of our BackStreet, KBNHA, our company, and because they knew that when it came to working on deals, talking with our managers, our promoters, our agents, putting together the stage, the production, all the budgets, I was always wanted to be hands-on. I learned many years ago, when I was joking earlier about this being show business, I learned from a great person. He was one of the last remaining members of the Temptations. The OJs. We did a concert with them in Central Florida area at the fairgrounds, and I'll never forget. Before going on stage, he's like, "I want to give you guys some advice." He's like, "You got to understand this is 2 words to this. What you're doing. It's called show business." And he's like, you always got to treat them both equally. He says, because if you're just focusing on your show, somebody can be taken off with your business. And I'll never forget, that was some of the best advice that I ever got, because a lot of times, especially artists, a lot of times they focus on their craft and they don't want to get, bothered by all the business. And then they look back 10 years later, well, where did all my money go?
Right.
Why am I not, economically much better off than I am now? So that always, kind of made me want to be a part of the business. And then from that, just being hands-on within the BackStreet and our company, it was just a very easy tie to parlay into the real estate, because it's very, in some aspects, it's business. It's still, trying to make sure you're keeping on your budgets, making sure something is worth your time and your efforts, that the payoff is going to be, worth what you're, doing your due diligence and making sure that you're, so that way at the end of the project, what you got yourself into and you're happy with the final outcome.
Did you have a lot of hands-on when you were on tour, let's say, and things were going? And so did you have hands-on if you were across the world somewhere? Were you able to still connect with your brother and talk about the deals that you were involved in?
Absolutely. Me and my brother, like I say, when we were younger, we weren't as close, but as I got older, like I said, once again, we started our company. The age gap just closed up like that. And we've been in touch. We talk pretty much almost on a daily basis. I think our wives probably would
a little jealous.
They think we're a little closer with each other than we are with them. Even when before modern technology, we were always, in communication over the phone or email. Have him come out. He's experienced a lot of great experiences with me all around the world, and a lot of that was I had the excuse with my other brothers and sisters to be able to say, well, we have partly some business to talk about, so that's why he's coming out.
Right,
he's the chosen one.
Right.
No favorites then, right?
Yeah.
And I would try to always, keep him involved in everything, because he's the main partner on this whole thing, and I think his input that he has from being this international star and everything is gives a lot to what he sees out there and everything, right, to implement it in some of the things that we're doing. And he's got a great eye on when, from going into different places and stuff like this, from hotels and just all kinds of
the architectural differences
everything.
of
It's
the
just
world
ridiculous how much he actually sees in his life and what he saw in his life, that and how much some of that that we actually can put into these projects that we're doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I want to talk a little bit about the due diligence process, because you mentioned that in just a moment ago. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. If you're watching or listening to this episode of The Deal Flow Show, you can get access to our archives as well as subscribe or follow us for future episodes of The Deal Flow Show at thedealflowshow.com. We're joined today by John Dorough and Howard Dorough, Howie from the BackStreet Boys, no big secret there. But talk a little bit about that due diligence process, because the devil's in the details, right? Absolutely. What is y'all's process that y'all walk through in evaluating partnerships, the flag you're going to put up, all this different things, a lot of moving parts as you talked about early on?
That could be another whole show and everything. But the due diligence is a huge thing. The market analysis, it has to work. If it doesn't work, then you got to go to look at something different or just pass on it. Whether it's doing a hotel and making sure that hotel can get the capacity in the ADR that we need, average daily rate, is a big part of whether you can do that or not. Whether how many units or something you can put in a building. Also, based off the zoning and just so many different things. Like we said before, when it comes to our due diligence, we love water. So it's either we want to see water, or we want to be on the water, or we want to be in the water, one or the other. So that's got a lot to do with what we do, and then having the right people around you to having our realtors to make sure that she can sell these units at this price range that we need to get from us doing our financials on this and everything, is a big part of it. Our hotels that we do are by the port. We know that as long as this port is going to be there, the hotel where we're at and everything, we actually have the closest hotel to the port and stuff. So we've always kind of ran with that. But that meant a lot. And I remember when I first saw that piece of property, I was like, this thing's for sale. We need to get this property. It's gonna explode over here eventually. And at that point, I think we were like fourth when it comes to the port. Comes the people flowing through the port and the cargo and stuff. And now I think we're on two to Miami. We're second to Miami. So that meant a lot. And then when it comes to our single family. It's location. It really is. We grew up in this downtown area, which was a great area and everything. So after we left that house and stuff, and my parents moved away, we bought up all the land we could around there too. And sure enough, they all were sold. As soon as we had them built, they were gone and stuff. Same thing in our Winter Park areas where we do our single family, and that's a lot to do. When it comes to doing your homework before you actually do a project, which you have to do. So that, to me, that's the number one thing, due diligence.
You talk about surrounding yourself with the right people. Being that you guys generally do the projects locally, are you using the same subcontractors for all your deals?
Most of it, yeah. Not always. Some people, some of them retire.
Right.
Back in 2008, when everything kind of took that crash and everything, a lot of them, got out of the business and stuff. So back in, when did we start this last one? I think it was about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, we actually had to bring in all new people and everything. And what helped us out with this is we were building Howard a house over in Brevard, and getting to know different contractors, getting to know, the new realtors and stuff like this, which we have. Chris Burton is a great contractor here in Brevard County. Alyssa Boyd with Sandella Realty, which is to her, she's just been doing an unbelievable job for us. Jackson Kirshner Architects, our engineers from Girding. Girding Engineering is one of the biggest and the best around here, especially when you got to do pilings, because when you're doing a project like this, it's all about your foundation.
Going down, right.
It's all about,
right.
what you're building down there has got to be
right.
perfect and everything before you can go up and stuff. So, and doing oceanfront stuff or in hotels over here and being in this climate where we're at, but the hurricanes and like this, it's the number one thing
right.
to get going.
We had an attorney on the show last week, I guess it was a contact of Paul's, and she was talking about that in the private equity space, there's been quite a few of these guys that had PE funds that were mainly for new construction that because of the COVID and the opportunities that are coming up have shifted to distressed and rehabbing and growing the asset there. Do y'all have anything in the plans, or is that completely off the table for y'all? Have y'all looked at distressed, being able to go in and apply your magic to something that already is sitting there but maybe needs a facelift?
We've done some things when it comes to that. I don't think that's really the way we actually do things. Luckily, we have a BackStreet Boy. So when it comes to a lot of this kind of things, especially when it comes to the financing part of it, there are some properties that we actually got into, whether they were distressed assets and things like this, or foreclosures. And
Darlene.
Darlene was one that we actually bought this house. Beautiful house over there off the Butler chain in Orlando. If anyone knows that area, that's where it's just
very
an
desirable area.
Sure.
And that happened in 2010. We actually got that one, and that was one of the first projects that we've done since the '08 crash. And it was totally distressed and everything. But when it comes to that financing, BackStreet wasn't doing all that bad. They still were just kicking it out and everything. So we've been able to self-finance a lot of these different single family, especially. And we would go in there, and we totally took a 6,000 square foot home, and it was gutted. Somebody got out of this whole thing, gutted it out, and we just came in there, and just put it all back together and made it better than what it ever was, and did very, very well on it. So those have been a lot of fun.
Where do y'all see the market over the next 24 to 36 months as a result of some of this being affected, especially the areas you operate in?
Well, I think when it comes to single family, I think the market's not going in. I think we've seen it actually increase. When it comes to the condominium stuff, the multifamily stuff, it's done very well for us. We're already, have all our pre-sales that we need and stuff. So that's actually been doing really well. Where I believe that we're going to see a difficult time is hospitality and stuff, hospitality loans and all that kind of stuff, because hotels are struggling.
Right.
Hotels are very much struggling and stuff. So, and we plan on doing another hotel right over here in front of the hotel that we have now, the Country Inn and Suites. Luckily, we're still a little ways out before we would actually need to get into financing. And we've been having a lot of people come to us that want to go ahead and see your track record and want to go ahead and do projects with you. So I think a lot of that's got to do with the experience you have behind it. And when you do something like a hotel, which takes a good 2 years, we do believe that by the time it gets there, we should ramp up pretty quick and stuff. In our hotel that we were at the Country Inn Suites before the COVID, we were at 95% occupancy. It was just ridiculous.
Because of the pandemic, the cruise lines obviously aren't operating, so that's got to hurt now, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes, and especially
Absolutely.
all in and around the port. Yeah.
The cruise line is really taking a toll.
Yeah.
We still hold our own, especially on the weekends, because of the location and everything. But once we get this cruise lines back in and start flowing, we should see our occupancies start going up into the 60% and that kind of range, 60 on up. And usually you usually break even around 50%. Yeah.
Where's I guess the most interest for you? It's kind of like picking one of your children, I'm sure, but either residential or hospitality or multifamily, or where do you guys see that it really has the most interest for you?
I mean, I think majority of our stuff has been in the multifamilies and the condominium buildings, but believe it or not, one of my favorite projects over the years that we've done is the Country Inn and Suites, our first hotel, which has, 151 rooms. Because most of the condo projects, they're fun, they're very, very creative, but we're in and out.
Right.
And the hotel actually is something that, even though we don't have as much hands-on, because obviously there's a cookie cutter format with the design and everything versus the individual franchise versus the multifamilies, we're able to, have a bit more of the hands-on and the design of the building, working with the architects and the engineers and working with the interior decorators. But the hotels to me are fun because I just, it's something we're still a part of. And that one we've been into, what, like 15 years probably, the Country Inn Suites. Yeah. And it's doing great. Like I say, and that's something where I see long-term money coming. That's something that my kids will, eventually take on with them and hopefully still pay for their lifestyle.
No, I actually like the multifamily. There's so much involved before it actually break ground, and you deal with a lot more people,
Right?
Because you have to deal with all the end users and everything, and each one of these units are kind of customized to them. So you're constantly dealing with all of them. You're dealing with the contractor, you're dealing with the engineers, you're dealing with the subs. There's a lot more people that you're dealing with, doing our weekly meetings that we do, which I always enjoy to see how things are progressing and stuff. So I actually like the single family also, but the multifamily to me, I get to see so many different avenues of it and stuff. So I enjoy that.
You mentioned two aspects. One is the financing. Having a name and recognition has helped. Has there ever been a case where being in the entertainment industry, people look at you in a certain way and you go to the deal table for something like this? Has that ever hurt? Has it ever been sabotaged an opportunity?
You know what? It's interesting because I think a lot of people, believe it or not, still don't know that one of the BackStreet Boys is into real estate. It's still, I'm still kind of constantly knocking on the door, letting people know about it, and getting out there here and there. I never boast about it. It's never something that, unless it naturally has the opportunity or the chance for me to talk about it, I really don't go out of my way. But there's definitely been, I think more so in the music career, for like back in the early days of, young guys being jealous of us because of their girlfriends maybe liking us a little bit more, maybe than them.
A little more.
But I find that, believe it or not, in the business aspects, it's opened up the doors more so totally on the other spectrum. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's sometimes in the business world, sometimes people just want to have that warm little fuzzy feeling, whether it's because their kids liked us or their wives or just the fact that they just want to be able to put their name in association with the brand name that we've had created over the years. So believe it or not, it's actually helped in our situation to have the history that we've had as a group.
Yeah, you keep doing that, by the way, Mr. Irish over here. So
I'm very blessed. I'm very grateful.
Well, no, and I appreciate that because a lot of people, you said, show business to have longevity as a group is a true testament to not just your ability to turn out good music, but to be able to do good business. Thank you. And so that's obviously important. But y'all do have a new album. Let's talk a little bit about that, but talk about the comparison over, how many years now?
27 years.
27 years, the difference between this album and the first. And give us a little insight.
There's a lot of history that's happened between those 27 years of the first album. I mean, I first got in the group when I was 19 years old. I was so bright-eyed, bushy-tail into this whole thing. I was, coming out of Orlando, Florida, trying to break into the business at a young age, and I decided at the age of like 7 years old that I wanted to be an entertainer, and I went through. Just coming out of Orlando and obviously Orlando not being New York or California, just trying to do a little bit of everything you could just to get your name out there. So I would sing, dance, act. I had so many close things I got close to being in, at one point, close to being in a group called Menudo, which Ricky Martin was really famous from. Okay. And I also got very close to being in the Mickey Mouse Club when they refranchised the whole brand again later on. And it's one of those things that I constantly just kept on pushing, just trying to get my name out there. And, I've been blessed that, I was, all the cards and the stars, all aligned for me to have this lottery ticket that I got and, starting the group, the BackStreet Boys at 19 years old. That was my big break for me. Never knew exactly where it was going to go. If it was just going to be like a, one hit wonder, exactly, one record. If we were blessed, hopefully get signed for a record deal. Sure. And next night we got signed, and we just were very blessed. I mean, we're now 10 records strong, but our first record we were so, wet behind the ears with knowing, what we were getting ourselves into. We were just young kids. I mean, a lot of us had, it was like our biggest break. Some of the guys hadn't even been in the industry. Two of the guys, Kevin and Brian, they were from Kentucky, and Brian literally got picked right out of his high school, 11th grade. His older cousin, Kevin, who was part of the group, said, "Hey, we're looking for a 5th member. Come on down to Florida." He just got picked right out of Kentucky.
Church choir.
Yeah.
Did they come alone or with their families at that point? Because it was a major risk, right, to take.
Yeah, no, actually, they came alone. And Kevin was Brian's older cousin, so at one point the three of us shared an apartment together. And the two other youngest, Nick and AJ, had their parents, so they were here in Central Florida. But like I said, starting that first record, it was those first couple of years, I'd say, were probably some of the most memories, the most enjoyable times I remember having. Because as a kid, unless I thought I was going to be joining the military, I didn't think I'd ever get a chance to travel the world like what we did.
Sure.
And I had seen some of the first things ever in my life and some of the first experiences, and it was a lot of great fun times. We were all young single guys. And that I think brought a whole, fun, youthful dynamic to it.
Sure.
From that time to now, obviously life has changed. We've all grown. Each of us now are married and have kids. So now when it goes into making a record or a tour, it's a whole different process. First of all, we're not singing anymore about trying to get the girls in the clubs or anything like that. Now we're adult men, we have kids, we're in our 40s. So the subject has changed a little bit. But also, our lifestyles have changed. Now when it comes to making a tour or making a record, it's not just the 5 of us that we're thinking of just our schedules, it's the 5 of us plus our families. And so that adds a whole new dynamic. And I think we're very blessed that we've afforded ourselves to not have to grind and just constantly go. Now that we've been blessed with this many years of success, we're allowed to take a little bit more of a seat back and work out our schedules. What works good for you? Obviously, there's school that's involved with kids, and some on the West Coast and East Coast, there's different summer vacations start at different times, spring breaks start at different times. So we all try to really communicate. That's the biggest thing. I think that's one of the biggest reasons. Hopefully, God willing, besides the music and the hits that we've had, that we've been able to stay together for so long because of the power of our fans just supporting us and the power of us communicating and realizing what's the enough factor for everybody. Because what might be enough for me might be totally different than what might be enough for somebody else within the group. And each of us have different work levels of, some of us just want to still go nonstop and hit it while we can, while we're, especially with this new second resurgence of us with this DNA album and having the number 1 record again, first time in a couple years.
That's amazing.
So some of us, are more like wanting to let's go, and some of us are like, hey, I want to sit back a little bit and just enjoy and the benefits that we've been able to provide. But it's really actually taught me a lot about with working with my band of brothers. It's really, believe it or not, helped me actually as well to work with my own brother to realize that your partners, your team of people who you surround yourself, like Johnny always says, is very, very important. And I'm blessed that I've had 4 other guys within my group that we actually like each other. We have our moments, we have our ups and downs, just like any partnership.
Yeah, it is a business. I mean, like you
totally.
said, you're the president. It's a company.
Absolutely. But it's been able to help me to work with my brother on a totally different level of just, family get-togethers. It's brought us, I think, even closer than, sometimes than the rest of my brothers and my sisters. But it's really, I've just grown so much, and I definitely credit the guys for helping me to grow and to make me almost to a point I say more worldly.
Right.
Anybody in the industry, and I'm going to ask both of you this question, but for you, anybody in the industry as you've built your career that you looked at them and said, that's the consummate deal maker? And if so, what were the characteristics or skills when you think about that person, if you had to make a list, what was it that made them so successful at what they were doing in that process?
Do you want to go first, Johnny?
I actually, I've always watched what goes on in the area that we work in and everything like this, and one of my mentors also was Charlie Boyd in Boyd Construction. And when we were doing our stuff with a contractor named Larcon here locally, we were always watching what he was doing, Charlie Boy construction stuff, and we competed with each other and stuff. Then the 2000 like I said, 8 came through, and then we started back up, and Larcon wasn't in business anymore. And sure enough, I got to meet Charlie and everything through Alyssa, which is our realtor, it was her father. Unfortunately, Charlie passed away a couple months ago, and so that was very disheartening. And but he was. I love following his work and looking at how he was doing things, and I just admired his construction.
What was it? Can you encapsulate it? Like when?
I mean, he seemed to know how to capitalize on every bit of space in that unit, which means a lot to me. I try to do the same thing. He was very unique on the way he did that and stuff, and whether it's just from a niche, in showers and stuff, which really wasn't done until probably in the last 10 years and stuff. As much as you see it now, it's just about every bathroom's got to have a niche in it and stuff. To where different, like another niche in a wall for a statue, or the lighting that he does, and how he really illuminates a unit based off of just the can lightings or something like this in there and stuff. So going through a lot of his, watching a lot of his stuff as we were going through our buildings and everything, really I admired it and everything.
So emulating somebody that you see does good work and you want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's terrific.
And I think for me, it's interesting because I'm always fascinated to be around people who are successful and have a mind that just wants to not just settle. Because I think a lot of times in the music industry, it is easy to say, okay, well, I'm just going to do my job and this is what I do and that's it. But I think there's, with me being the mindset that I am, the music industry is just a creative outlet, and so I've been able to take that into like doing what we do now. It's another project, and so I really admire other artists who have done it. Some great people I've met over the years, like that have not only taken their music but have like parlayed their success into other ventures. Everybody from like Lionel Richie and Steven Tyler, Elton John, Ryan Seacrest. I think is a great person who's taken, somebody was just a local DJ in Georgia and took his company to a multi-million-dollar company now and just branched out. And I love seeing people who are never just, complacent, just always are looking to, how can we, especially in the music industry now, it's like you're constantly trying to it's not the same what it was back in the days, because back in the days records were being sold, and nowadays it's a lot of times a lot of downloads and stuff like that, and so you have to figure ways of making your money in different outlets than what it was in the past. And so a lot of people are also getting adventurous and saying, okay, well, how can I get into corporate like sponsorships, or how can I get into instead of just sponsorship, well, how about a percentage of that instead? For the long-term, investment future ideas of something you might believe in, whether it's a product that's just coming out on the market. I mean, even within the BackStreet Boys, we're still branding ourselves in other aspects. Even to a point we're still been thinking about possibly an alcohol beverage that we're going to eventually tie our names to, and just and also food products and stuff like that. It's like. It's definitely thinking outside of the box.
Well, you were talking about people who parlayed that, Jimmy Buffett,
Absolutely.
Another great example.
Great example.
And it was interesting because if you go in, we were staying down at the Margaritaville in Hollywood.
Great place.
2 or 3 months, before COVID, 2 or 3 months before COVID. And I looked out and there was the Land Shark Bar, and I had not done any background and research on it. I started reading about it and had the deal he had with Corona early on, and then how he transitioned and created his own beer brand to be able to come out with Land Shark. But it was funny because both of you actually gave the same answer, but in a different way. It's all about looking at everything and maximizing the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's finding those, maximizing the space, maximizing the relationships, maximizing the opportunities, which is really very exciting. We'll come back to that in just a moment. If you're watching or listening to this episode of The Deal Flow Show, you can get access to our archives as well as future episodes. Follow us, subscribe at thedealflowshow.com. Paulie, I know you're itching to ask some questions.
No,
over
well,
here.
I wanted to say what a testament to the BackStreet Boys yourself for that many years to stay together as a group and to respect each other. Check your egos, right? Because otherwise, in your music business, how many times you see bands that could have made it for 25 years that couldn't stay together?
Absolutely. I mean, we were definitely, it's public knowledge. We didn't grow up together. Obviously, besides Kevin and Brian, who are cousins from Kentucky. I did know AJ, actually, who's coming up, going to be on Dancing with the Stars, so we're all really proud of him, rooting for him on that. But I did know him a little bit from the Orlando entertainment scene, just at auditions and stuff like that. But we were put together. And, that's not always the recipe for the easiest success. Like I said, we didn't grow up each other. We didn't, practice in a garage, even though we'd practice eventually in a garage at the band house. But like we weren't, having our parents help us out, and but with that, we had to really learn to get along, to bond with each other really quickly, because once we got together, within I'd say 6 to 8 months, we were traveling overseas and had got a record deal. Actually, no, I'm sorry, before that, going overseas, we were on a bus in the States, traveling all across America, going to high schools and middle schools, performing for kids that didn't know who we were, didn't probably really want to know who we were, but they were forced to go into assemblies and hear
To listen to
a
you.
bunch of boys jumping around, singing and dancing.
You're right.
But we developed a bond. And there was times that we could have easily gone our separate ways. I mean, it's public knowledge. We had lawsuits with previous management, record label. We've had some internal issues, but I'm very blessed because it could have gone easily, like a lot of other groups, like you said, that just said, I don't want to do this. This is not for me. My
Even
piece.
when Kevin left the group.
Yeah, even when Kevin actually took a break for a second, and it wasn't like a bad break or anything like that. He just decided he wanted to do something different. And the rest of us could have easily said, you know what, we're done. We've had a good run at this, but the four of us, kept on going. We held that torch and kept on, running to the finish line as fast as we
Was it
could.
2 albums Bill did?
Yes, we did 2 albums without him, and always kept the door open for him. And when he came back, it was always, we were meant to be as the 5 of us. We were suggested to replace him by management, by record labels, and we just always felt it wasn't, the bond wouldn't be the same, was having a new member coming in, filling in for Kevin. So instead, I just took the rest of his parts in the show and just sang his parts. But it definitely.
Hope the money was commensurate too.
No, I didn't get his extra pay. No, unfortunately, I wish I could afford it. My nightly rate didn't go up, unfortunately. But it definitely did really educate me on realizing, because I didn't grow up in the all-American boy who played sports and was in the team realm of like hanging with a bunch of guys, and that just the feeling of being able to have somebody criticize you and not take it personally.
Right.
I didn't have that. So that was probably for me the hardest struggle I had to learn, was to be able to be like, wow, why are they like busting my chops?
Right.
I don't get it. I'm not busting their chops and stuff.
Right.
But then you learn that it's
Constructive criticism.
Yeah, it's constructive friendly, locker
You got to
room
develop
kind of
that
hanging.
thick skin a little bit.
Exactly.
Right.
And so that actually really did help me develop a thick skin, to where when I got, working with my brother, and I think it made it easier for us to be able to create a business relationship, and to be able to go into negotiations, or being able to go into situations where it's going to be a little uncomfortable, bro. We're going to go into this negotiation talk right now, and I understand if you're going to probably stay quiet for a few things and need me to talk on behalf of us, but it might get a little bit hairy, but it's okay. We're going to get through this, and it's part of negotiating. It's part of business.
Yep.
We've talked about business. We've talked about show business. Let's talk a little bit about the foundation. Because we're obviously big believers. I live by a philosophy: the more you give, the more you get. And I think that there's opportunities also we can ultimately give back, and we find interest outside of business. Can you all talk a little bit about that, the history and the background behind the foundation?
Yes, I'm very proud to say that my family, we have created over the years the Dorough Lupus Foundation. And it's in memory of a sister that I lost to lupus back in '98. Her name was Caroline. And it was a disease that took her really quickly from us, even though she had it for, I think, over 10, 12 years maybe. But it came about really drastically when she passed away. I'll never forget. I was with my brother in California, and we had just received our first MTV Music Award back in '98, and it was probably the biggest award that we had ever, received in our homeland, because we had most of our success came internationally, believe it or not. A lot of people don't know this, but we started over in Europe first, and like I say, in '94, and made success all around the rest of the world before America finally accepted us. So this was a big night for me to receive our first award in America, our homeland. And I'll never forget, my brother told me that he got a call from my dad, and that my sister had to go to the hospital, and that he didn't want my brother really to alarm, to worry me too much. He wanted me to enjoy this
This was on the same
moment.
night?
He didn't want me to
Wow.
take away from this glorious moment that I was having. But my brother, being my brother, he just couldn't let that. He knows that for me, I need to know things. So he told me, and he said he was going to go see her the next day. And he says, I'll let you know if it's enough where you should be coming to see us as well. And so I went through that next day, and then the following night, I got a call in the middle of the night saying, you need to get on a plane the next morning as soon as possible. And I went to see her, and unfortunately, she had already passed away at that time. But we decided at the time, our fans, this is probably, like you say, probably at the height of our career, if not right before, but it was enough where we had a huge fan base around the world. They kept on sending so many flowers to our house, and our house turned into like a florist shop. And so we decided, we were very, very grateful for the outpour from the fans, but we were trying to figure out how can we turn this negative into a positive situation. And so the local hospital in Orlando, Florida Hospital, reached out to us and said, if you're interested, we could definitely help you, because I think at the time we were giving money to that hospital because that was the closest hospital to us. But they didn't really truly have a lupus research center, but they said we could help you to turn this into something of maybe creating your own foundation. I would have never thought that I would have my own foundation, but it felt right at the time. I was able to parlay and use my status as the success of the group into having those opportunities to have media ask me, about this hush-hush disease that really was at that time was really, really hush-hush. It's now become way more on the map. But at the time, nobody knew about it. Nobody knew how you got it or how the people live with it, who had it. And so I'm very proud that we were able to raise a lot of money. At the time, we were giving most of our money to UCLA's Research Center. And at one point, we gave a check to them over $500,000 that we had raised. And it was definitely, I give credit to all of our fans. It was a fan club / charity. They wanted to just support me in whatever they could. And they knew I was putting on, charity concerts. I was doing anything we could. We would do a family cruise, anything I could do outside of the BackStreet Boys just to create an opportunity for my fans to come and be with me. And they were just gracious enough to want to pay to come out and give donations and stuff like that. And so we did very well. It was
a good run. Yeah.
We had a really great run with it. At the time, unfortunately, once we got to a point where the market crashed, our fans could barely, let alone buy our own records, decide to really constantly contribute. So we've, at this point, the doors have been closed on it, but we still have the 501c3. 501c3. And so one day, possibly, when the timing's right, if we open the doors, I would be glad to. In the meantime, I've been giving a lot of my time and efforts for lupus to Lupus LA, which is a foundation out in California that I was a part of their first event that they ever did, and have been supporting them ever since. As well as I try to do what I can here locally in town. I'm a part of the King's board, the King Center. And I try to do whatever I can to just give back, here and there when I can. Because, I've been really blessed. And so for me, it's about giving back when you can.
Absolutely. If you're watching or listening to this episode of The Deal Flow Show, you can get access to our archives and subscribe or follow us for future episodes at thedealflowshow.com. Any business activities outside of the work that y'all do that others wouldn't know about that you'd like to talk about? Any other projects or things that y'all are working on?
Besides our own homes, it seems like never stop having a project going on there.
That's called the honey-do list, right? Yes.
There's been a big one this
What about the next project that's now on the horizon for Dorough Brothers?
The surf.
The
We have,
surf?
we have the surf, which is a great.
Give us some details on the surf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. It's 25 condominium units, and plus we have 3 bays of retail. This is one thing about the uniqueness of this building that I really like is this is the first time we've ever done multifamily with retail in the bottom and stuff. So that's just to deal with the whole association things and stuff. It's been a different animal to us. But it ends up being a unbelievable project for us to do. We're very, very proud of it. And we look forward to actually really bring in some good retail, whether it's a restaurant or I don't know, it could be massage or whatever. It could in those retail spots, and it's a great, great location. You have to drive by it. There's people walking up and down there on the beach all the time.
Yes.
So we're really looking forward to that project. So that's the one that's in the horizon, the most recent horizon at this point. Plus we have these townhomes that are across the street from Flores de la Costa that we just finished and everything last year that we're looking at going ahead and building them up and possibly doing VROB with it and just keeping them within our company. We also have the hotel in front of the Country Inn & Suites at the port there that we're looking at doing another 150 rooms. It's got to be. That's what the city requires, a minimum of 150 rooms in that area. And then there's another property that we have in Titusville that we're looking at doing some more condominiums, and those are going to be more of a river view and the best view of the launches going up from the Cape. Right there, we have a great piece of property there and a couple single-family homes there also. And that project will have 50 condominiums. So we got about $60 million worth of projects going to be going up.
Yeah, so just spare time work.
Yeah. 60, 70 million, yeah.
We have obviously a diverse audience that watches and listens to the Deal Flow show. What kind of people would y'all like to hear from, or people that might want to do projects with you, or what are the kind of folks that you're looking for to continue to grow y'all's business?
Well, I've always told Johnny, I see that we're still, breaking ground with the company. I actually see this company getting bigger and larger and taking on more projects, even outside of the realm of what Howie can bring to the table finance-wise with BackStreet and getting loans and everything. I would love, ideally, to get more of like a nest pool of financial people who are willing to come in.
So raise capital outside of your own doings.
Exactly, and be able to take our projects instead of just doing what our limits of what we have financially, being able to take on more projects and multi-projects at once.
And then maybe down the road an exit strategy for somebody to buy us out, as a company and everything. So all those things are still there, or all start. And so we are definitely looking for those kind of capital to come in and work with us as a partnership, or like I said, possibly even buy us out one day.
That's interesting because y'all have done mostly just debt yourself, right? Bank financing.
Bank financing
for your
or
own
personal
projects.
financing, yes.
Yeah, not tapped into the capital markets at all. Yeah, that was why actually Paulie joined the team at Harbor City Capital, 25 years in the broker-dealer community as a broker. And Harbor City, our bonds, we've issued 4 rounds. We're in our 5th round right now, raising direct from retail investors, but the 6th round that's coming is going to that broker-dealer community. So we're, as a company, we're just now moving into that space, and he's spearheading a lot with his team. Right on. So we'll definitely want to connect you with some folks that we've already had on the show and that we know.
I will have to say, with the Country Inn & Suites, we have ventured just a little bit outside that. We went to an insurance company with the Howie National, to where they actually do the actual long-term loan on that one.
Nice.
And that we have a partner as well on that one.
Yeah, and we have Kent Oliver, who's with the Oliver Group, and he actually partnered with us on that one to bring pretty much half the capital. He's got 50% ownership. Yeah.
Very interesting. What's the best way for folks to get in touch with y'all's company?
Pretty much the website, DoroughBrothers.com, and in there it has our contacts and everything to emails to get a hold of us. Yes.
And for BackStreet, they can contact my management if they need. But
That's right.
Well, I did have a question. I did
remember the day rate, right?
I did have, just because I'm curious. So collectively through the years, how many albums have you guys sold?
well, the last big number that they've said, and it's grown since then, but I don't know where it is. But the last number that was out there was 130 million records.
Wow.
And that was a while ago.
That was a while
back
ago,
in
yeah.
Millennium or
And then
no, Black and Blue,
Black and
somewhere
Blue,
around there, yeah.
So we've done like
and,
since then.
and then
3
obviously
albums.
after the pandemic, are you guys going on tour with the new album?
Yes, actually, we were right in the midst of a world tour. We had started last May in Europe and then did the whole summer here in the States and in Canada, all arenas and stadiums. And then we went over to Southeast Asia, Japan, and last fall. And then this past February, March, we were over in South America. Pretty much got through the whole tour except for the very last show we had to cancel in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So we we had plans. We were supposed to be this past April and the summer in New Zealand, Australia, and America again, a second run. So that's all been pushed to next year. So next April,
Terrific.
I'll be back, hopefully, God willing, back over in New Zealand, Australia, and back here in the summertime.
Yeah, y'all weren't the first to see whether you call it a struggle, but you saw your early success overseas. You know, obviously Jimi Hendrix, same thing, right? Had to go to London to get famous, but to be received. But do you feel like y'all have come full circle now because a lot of this touring is overseas?
Oh, definitely. I mean, a majority of it. That's one thing that I'm very proud of is that, you know, a lot of times people are like, wow, they didn't even know that we started over in Germany. We were there for 3 years. We ended up dating German girlfriends because we were never home. We had German girlfriends because we were never back home. But we got our success overseas at first, and it was truly the grassroots approach. We were over in Germany, like I say, for 3 years, playing all the little hallas and going to all like the nook and cranny spots that I think that's what really truly created our foundation that's been able to give us the staying power to have success for this long, because even at the times when finally America did catch on, just like most artists, you have that highs, but then eventually you come down from the wave, and still internationally has been our biggest market. They've supported us to a point, like I said, where we're still playing stadiums in certain countries. We have been blessed with the second, this resurgence of us here in America with this record and bringing us back to arenas again, which is really great. Because before that, like most artists, we did the ups and downs. We went from doing arenas to back to theaters again.
Right.
And but I really give credit to the fans supporting us and not giving up on us. That really fed us and gave us the energy to want to keep on doing this.
A lot of people don't know about the group is they never really stopped. They were always going, but they were so big overseas, whether it's in Asia or Europe and stuff like this, that they just kept going. They just so there was never really a major hiatus time that y'all took off.
Right.
And I've heard so many from my friends and everything. Oh, it's great to see the BackStreet. They came back after. Well, they really never left, and they really haven't had to promote so much because their fan base is so big. It just fills up everything.
Yeah,
That's terrific.
excellent. Anything that y'all would like to give a shout out, or any projects or information or anything that you would like to share with our audience before we
Real
finish
quick,
up?
I would like to share a little bit of some of the people that are involved with this and what we've been doing. Like right now, we have Chris Burton with Burton Homes. Is about the best builder here in Brevard County, if not the. And we have, like I said, Alyssa Boyd with the real estate, Sandow Realty. We have Jackson Kirshner is the architect, Steve Girding is engineer. We have a bunch of different subs that they will be using. And we have our design team, interior design team, which is Blue Days Design with Kathy and Joe over there, yes.
And Dale Cox, our CFO of our company.
Oh my God, yeah. And Dale Cox, which is another heart of our company.
Yes.
He's the CFO of the company and is our CPA and everything. And he's like I say, him and I work hand in hand most of the time, and is definitely my right hand.
Well, I'm glad we finally got to a table together. Hopefully the next time we'll
Great
have
to
a couple
meet
of
you.
glasses of
Great to meet
wine
both of you guys.
and a nice big steak.
And the
something.
team, and the rest of the team here.
Absolutely.
That's what you guys.
Once again, this is the Deal Flow Show, and this is my co-host Paul Nicolini, John Dorough, Howard Dorough, Howie D, and
Sweet
now
D.
Sweet D.
Sweet D.
That
It's
stays
just
here, okay?
yeah. What happens on the Deal Flow Show stays on the Deal Flow Show. You can get access to our archives as well as subscribe and follow us at thedilflowshow.com. BackStreetBoys.com. And also, if you're out there, they gave out the information for their website. Look forward to hearing from anyone that is interested in talking about projects or partnerships or things that you might work together. We'll see you guys in another episode very, very soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
For more episodes, visit thedealflowshow.com and subscribe.